Sheila scares Taylor. Deacon's unexpected visit. According to The Bold and the Beautiful, Taylor Hayes will be startled by something Sheila Sharp says. Deacon Sharp will also make an appearance to spend time connecting with Hope Logan Spencer. So here's what B&B fans should expect. Monday's episode will be a major one for Deacon, who will receive love advice from his children. Deke Sharp, Harrison Cohn, may remind Deacon that he deserves better than Sheila before his father leaves for Forrester Creations. It appears that Deacon will pay Hope an unannounced visit at work and take advantage of the opportunity to observe her in action. Of course, it won't be long until Hope shifts the discussion to Taylor and how she's a far better match for Deacon than Sheila. Sheila will next make a confession that worries Taylor. Taylor should be scared in her boots because Sheila will say she knows what has been going on between her and Deacon. Fortunately, it will only be a false alarm. Sheila will have another purpose for making that statement, so perhaps Taylor has decided not to be Deacon's therapist anymore. Taylor may act as if Deacon has made significant improvement, and that she is simply too busy to keep him as a patient. Perhaps Taylor will pledge that she knows a number of other great therapists who can step up. Whatever the situation, Sheila will stay unaware of the attraction that has built between Deacon and Taylor. That information must be revealed at some point, but first more drama must occur. In the meanwhile, Steffi Forrester Finnegan will require John Finn Finnegan's advice. Finn may see Steffi's nervousness and ask how he can help. Steffi will reveal something on Monday's episode, so she may still be concerned about Taylor and Deacon's relationship. Taylor agreed to end things with Deacon, but Steffi may be concerned that this is only temporary and her mother will be unable to stay away from him. That could endanger Taylor and those close to her, so Steffi may express her concerns to Finn and seek comfort. Finn may pledge to protect his family at all costs and do everything it takes to keep Sheila from spinning out of control again. Even so, The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers suggest Steffi may have a bad feeling about the impending calamity. Sheila breaks Taylor's heart next week. According to The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers, the CBS soap will have a spicy episode next week. An all-new promo teases that sparks will ignite between several relationships, including Deacon and Sheila. Can Taylor Hayes handle the impending heartbreak? Continue reading to find out. Here's what happens next week on B&B with spoilers below. B&B spoilers. Deacon is giving everyone whiplash. Last week on The Bold and the Beautiful, Deacon Sharp confessed his love for his therapist Taylor Hayes. Next week's soap promo features the Il Giardino owner and his wife Sheila Carter sharing intimate moments. Sheila Carter then storms into Taylor's office, startling him and spills the beans. The villainess brags to Deacon's true love about having sex with her husband and praises the therapist for assisting her in resuming their marriage. The good doctor will undoubtedly feign excitement while being devastated on the inside. B&B spoiler. Taylor's heartbreak. Taylor did end their affair. Can she really be furious at her patient for sleeping with his wife? Apparently, the answer is yes, as new teasers depict Deacon pleading for his mistress' forgiveness and saying that he was only attempting to reconcile with his wife. How many times can Taylor Hayes face rejection before her broken heart syndrome flares up? Ridge Forrester dumped her for Brooke Logan, and she was still recovering from that. If Taylor truly is in love with Deacon as she claims, this should land her in the hospital, right? The irony is that Dr. Hayes and Deacon got away with their covert affair without Sheila's knowledge. Imagine if she finds out right away when she overhears her spouse pleading with his doctor to take him back. Despite her best efforts to remain composed, Taylor's therapist instincts began to resurface as she slowly put her bag down. She had trained herself for years to spot the signs of anxiety, when the mind filled in the gaps that the heart wasn't prepared to handle. Nevertheless, she was never completely prepared for the chaos Sheila Sharp had brought into her life by any amount of education or self-awareness. There was never a quiet Sheila. It reverberated. Taylor gave herself a silent reprimand by shaking her head. She thought you're safe. You're at home. Even so, as she continued inside, her hand lingered close to her phone. Her uneasiness increased with each step, and the soft click of her heels on the floor sounded abnormally loud. Then she heard it. A breath. Not her own. Taylor became motionless. She turned slowly, looking around the room as her heart pounded hard against her chest. The lights were low, the furniture was in its proper place, and nothing had been altered. Nevertheless, the unmistakable sense of being observed persisted. "Hello," she exclaimed, detesting the tiny sound of her voice. She was met with silence. She let out a trembling breath and ran a hand through her hair. "Taylor, get a grip," she told herself. Even when she wasn't there, Sheila had a way of making people feel uncomfortable. Trauma existed in anticipation and memory, not closeness. A voice cut through the air behind Taylor as she turned to face the hallway. "You were always aware of energy, weren't you?" Taylor whirled around. Half hidden by shadow, Sheila stood with her lips curving into that icy, familiar smile that never quite made it to her eyes. With a gasp, Taylor took an automatic step back. "What are you doing here, Sheila?" Sheila cocked her head, examining Taylor as if it were a puzzle she was already familiar with. "Calm down. I'm not here to harm you," Taylor angrily said. "That's never been comforting coming from you." But her heart betrayed her arrogance. Sheila approached with slow, deliberate steps. "All I wanted to do was talk." From woman to woman. Taylor took a deep breath. "You must go. Right now." Sheila chuckled quietly. "You see? That's precisely what I mean. You tend to assume the worst all the time." Taylor grounded herself by crossing her arms. Assumptions are unnecessary because of history. Sheila's expression briefly changed from one of annoyance to perhaps even regret, but it was gone as soon as it appeared. She slightly leaned in to encroach on Taylor's personal space. Sheila whispered, "You know what's funny? I can still make your heart race no matter how many years go by, or how many lives you rebuild." Taylor tensed up. "I am not under your control. Don't I?" Sheila muttered. Satisfied that her mission was complete, Sheila took a step back. Fear only needed to be sown in order to work. It didn't need to persist. She remarked nonchalantly, "I'll see myself out. I wanted to remind you that peace is brittle." Then she was gone. Long after the door had shut, Taylor stood motionless, her hands shaking despite her best efforts and her breathing shallow. She detested the fact that Sheila was correct about one thing. The fear persisted. It had always. Deacon Sharp was standing outside Hope Logan Spencer's house across town, staring at the door as if it would sting him if he knocked. This visit was not planned by him. To be honest, he had made at least 3 attempts to talk himself out of it during the drive. However, he had been driven forward by something inside of him. Guilt, longing, or perhaps simply the desire to improve upon his past. Hope was clearly surprised when she answered the door. "Dad." Deacon gave a clumsy smile. "Hi, Hope." After hesitating, she moved aside. "Enter now." Deacon's internal tension stood in stark contrast to the room's warmth. Hope had always had that effect on him. It was steady, hopeful, and grounded, and instead of pulling her down to his level, it made him want to rise to hers. They were seated across from one another, a comfortable distance full of unwritten history. Deacon started. "I wasn't sure if this was a good time." Hope gave a soft shrug. "When has our timing ever been ideal?" He rubbed the back of his neck and laughed. "You make a valid point." There was a pause, heavy but not uncomfortable. "At last," Deacon said, "I heard about everything going on. With Sheila." Hope's face tensed. "She's never far from chaos. I wanted to make sure you were okay," he said earnestly. "Very good." Hope looked into his face, studying him. "Yes, I am. However, it is helpful to know that you are concerned." Deacon wasn't prepared for the impact of those words. "I do care," he said hastily. "I always have. I simply didn't always know how to express it." Hope's tone grew softer. "I understand. And you're trying now, I see." At that time they discussed trivial matters and both pleasant and unpleasant memories. Deacon freely expressed his regrets. Hope expressed her worries without passing judgment. It was straightforward rather than dramatic or explosive. Fireworks rarely accompanied healing. It seemed like a gift that Deacon didn't deserve but fervently wished to keep safe. He muttered, "I don't expect anything from you. All I want is to be present. In any manner you permit me to." Hope's smile was genuine and unguarded. "For now, that's sufficient." Later that evening, Taylor sat by himself and repeatedly listened to Sheila's remarks. Peace is brittle. She detested the fact that the statement was accurate. Sheila's apparent ability to strike at the right moment, using fear rather than violence, was something she detested even more. It buzzed on her phone. Rich sent a message. Are you alright? Sheila was in town, I heard. Slowly, Taylor typed back. I'll be. Because that was the new definition of strength, surviving fear rather than rejecting it. Unaware that Sheila's shadow stretched farther than any of them knew, Deacon drove home across the city with a lighter heart than he had in years. Because one life was being discreetly restored while another was being purposefully disturbed. Furthermore, Sheila Sharp never played a single move at a time. The fallout starts. Taylor Hayes didn't get much sleep. Sheila's calm, self-assured, intrusive voice crept back into her mind each time she closed her eyes. By morning, fatigue was like a second skin. Uninvited memories returned, and Taylor sat at her kitchen table, staring at nothing while her unfinished coffee grew cold. She was aware of triggers because she was a psychiatrist. She knew that fear didn't always make an audible announcement because she had seen Sheila far too often. It whispered at times. It waited at times. Sheila Sharp had always been able to cause harm without raising her voice. At last, Taylor got up and paced the room in an attempt to regain control. She detested the fact that Sheila could still access her feelings because a single fleeting encounter could shatter years of hard-won tranquility. However, it wasn't the fear per se that disturbed her the most. It was the motivation behind it. Sheila had not come to quarrel. She wasn't there to make threats. She was here to remind. Taylor's spine tingled at that realization. Deacon's cautious hope. Deacon Sharp, on the other side of town, woke up feeling something strange in his chest. I hope. He stared at his tiny apartment's ceiling while the conversation played over in his head. Don't shout. No charges. No doors were slammed. Just acceptance he hadn't anticipated, and honesty. Deacon was aware that decades of disappointment could not be undone by a single pleasant night. However, it was a beginning, and beginnings were important to someone like him. Nevertheless, he couldn't get rid of the uneasiness. Sheila. Lives bent around Sheila's orbit whenever she resurfaced, typically shattering in the process. Deacon had spent years attempting to escape her sway and establish himself as something greater than her previous errors and deceit. The timing still bothered him, though. Hope is beginning to blossom. Taylor trembled. Sheila appeared out of nowhere once more. That didn't feel like a coincidence. You better not drag her into this, Deacon muttered to himself as he rubbed his face. Because Deacon wasn't sure he'd be able to remain on the sidelines if Sheila caused Hope any kind of emotional or physical harm. A fortuitous meeting. Taylor made the decision not to hide. Sheila thrived on people running away, and avoidance only increased fear. Taylor chose to focus on her work because that's where she felt most strong. She was reminded of who she was outside of the trauma by helping others. However, destiny had other ideas. Later that afternoon, Taylor almost ran into someone she knew as she was leaving the building. Deacon. They came to a sudden halt, both of them looking surprised. Taylor, Deacon said cautiously. Hey. Deacon, she said, quickly gathering herself. I was surprised to see you. Yes, I could say the same thing. The awkward pause was loaded, not hostile. Their shared history, which neither of them had chosen, bound them to the same perilous woman. Are you all right? She was surprised by how gently Deacon asked. Taylor paused. Lying seemed futile. Sheila came to see me. In an instant, Deacon's jaw tightened. Fuck it. Taylor clarified. She didn't hurt me. Not in a physical sense. Darkly, he remarked. That's never how she works. Taylor examined him. You seem to be preparing for something. Deacon acknowledged. I always am when it comes to her. Especially right now. Because of Hope? Quietly, Taylor asked. He gave a nod. She's letting me in at last. Additionally, Sheila has a knack for ruining everything she comes into contact with. Taylor's tone became softer. So we're on the same side. Surprised but relieved, Deacon met her gaze. Well, we can't undervalue her if she's initiating something. Sheila is content. Sheila, meanwhile, sat by herself, reenacting Taylor's response with evident joy while swirling a glass of wine. When used properly, fear was such a lovely thing. She didn't have to put Taylor's family or safety in danger. She had only served to remind Taylor of the turmoil, peril, and uncertainty of their shared past. Sheila grinned to herself. Taylor felt uneasy. Deacon was preoccupied. And Hope? Sheila grinned broadly. Hope Logan Spencer stood for the innocence, loyalty, and unwavering love that Sheila had never been permitted to possess. And the relationship between Deacon and his daughter? Leverage was that. Sheila whispered. She always did have such a big heart. The loudest heartbreaks come from big hearts. She was waiting for a message when her phone buzzed. Verification. The chance. In a single fluid motion, Sheila finished her drink. Oh, things are starting to get interesting. Hope's uncomfortable epiphany. The uneasiness began to creep in while Hope was folding laundry. There was an abrupt heaviness, as if something valuable were standing on precarious ground, and she was unable to explain it. She hadn't realized how much her talk with Deacon had meant to her. She wasn't sure she had the courage to let him in again. She still wanted to believe, though. Her phone came to life. Unknown figure. She scowled before giving a cautious response. Hello. A honey-sweet, well-known voice answered. Hello, Hope. Sheila is here. Hope gasped. All instincts cried out simultaneously. Why are you phoning me? Hope asked, forcing herself to speak steadily. Sheila gave a quiet laugh. Calm down. All I wanted to do was talk. Concerning your father. Hope gripped the phone more tightly. Suddenly, the tenuous calm that Deacon and Hope had started to establish felt perilously exposed.